Spoiler alert, we're unpacking the whole plot, twist by twist. If you're spoiler sensitive, hit pause and come back when your TBR list catches up. Cheers!
Welcome to the podcast where our reading habits are unhinged.
And so are we.
I'm Gabby.
I'm Miranda.
And this is Marginally Unwell. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. We may just have this pre-recorded every time. Let's go for that.
Today we are talking about Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. A haunting story of rewilding, resilience, and the wildness within us all. Set in the Scottish Highlands, it's a tale where nature and human hearts both fight to heal. This book honestly reminded me of that a little bit.
The Grave Alone.
Yeah.
Whoops. This one I added because it sounded really good.
Yeah. So we start out this one with our main character. Interesting name.
I thought so too. I wasn't sure if it was like right.
Yeah.
That's how I was saying.
So, main character, Inti, she is kind of just getting to Scotland. She is leading a project to reintroduce wolves
into the ecosystem. I think if I remember correctly, they used to have wolves, and then they went, they're no longer wolves in Scotland. So they were wanting to reintroduce them into the ecosystem to restore a balance.
I think that it didn't really explain this, but I'm assuming based on like the whole story was that they were like hunted because Scotland is really known for like a lot of sheep.
Livestock.
Yeah. And so they were hunted to like save the sheep, but then it like affected other parts of the ecosystem. So she is some sort of biologist and is like leading this project to get the best.
So there's as you can imagine, they're all farmers, livestock people. A lot of people are unhappy and they make it very known.
Yeah, they're pissed.
And then, always so
just casual. Yeah, well, and I mean, like you said, a lot of them are farmers, so they're probably like worried about their livelihood and things like that because it's obviously got it for their livestock. Could be pretty detrimental to
leave. Also hold not a lot of town meetings, but they held a couple of them. Town hall meetings.
I think whenever they were like very first trying to introduce them, because I feel like at first it was talking more about like breeding them because they had them set up in like cages. I think they were like large, like Cajun areas, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like better. And I know that they were trying to get like a couple of them to mate, like to get packs growing. And so I think like right around the time that they were going to be like, they started having meetings with the people.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like anybody was happy at all about it.
No. A lot of people were like, well, what if they got on our land? And they're like, well, we shoot them if it was a legitimate reason, like treat them as if they're any other animal, just don't go out and hunt them. Like there will be an investigation.
Yeah, you have to like prove essentially that like
that they were on the land trying to attack your sheep. Yeah. People are making a lot of like what if scenarios.
Yeah.
And like
trying to find a loophole to like kill them anyway.
Yeah. And they're like, well, what about the children? They're like, they're not going to seek you out. They're not going to be looking for you. So, it was a lot of that.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it starts out, that she's like trying to start this project. And then we get sort of a flashback, I guess, of her childhood with specifically
her father?
Yeah. I feel like, well, at least I guess in the beginning. There was a little bit with her too, but
yeah.
Her mom and dad were split up. So her and her twin sister.
Yeah.
It was kind of talking about them going to stay with their dad because the parents are split up, whatever. Their dad teaching them a lot about like the land and like appreciating it and understanding like how it all works and that we need to not be like taking from it, destroying it, all the things.
He's very much a land activist.
So during one of these, like the initial flashbacks, they're hunting something. Deer?
I thought it was like a deer. Oh, or something. I thought it was like a big deer.
Something. They're hunting something. She's like talking about her dad like gutting it. Because she talks about how like she says it weird, I feel like at first. She's like, he gutted me like stem to sternum, like
stem to stern.
Yeah, and like she like says it and you're like, what the hell? And then realize that so apparently she has this thing called mirror touch synesthesia, which if she like sees somebody being hurt or sees something being hurt, like an animal or human or whatever, she can feel it,
like empathize. It's like
yeah.
I've thought it more of that, or like you know how men will sometimes get the symptoms from women that are pregnant,
like sympathy veins.
Sympathy veins. So that's kind of how I imagined it. Like she could, if she sees it, she feels it. So
yeah, it seemed pretty intense because she would like pass out and stuff. Like
an animal's getting gutted,
and then she feels like she just like that happened to her. So we learned that information about her and kind of that reveals a little bit more insight to her personality and like how she grew up and things like that. And she had to be careful like around people and stuff because obviously that could be abused.
Yeah.
And so where were they?
I remember which they were in whenever this was happening.
During the flashback?
Yeah.
They were in Canada somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Because her dad lived like in the bush. Yeah. And so that's kind of revealed, and then we learn a little bit about them with their mom, who is a cop, and she is like completely opposite their dad. Like,
yeah, he always sees like the good in people. Like he always wants, like that was like one of the biggest comparisons between them was like her mother was upset that she always sees what people are capable of, not necessarily the bad in people, but what they're capable of because she's in law enforcement and she sees a lot of like domestic abuse and murders and things like that. She built a case around them, and then the dad is like, "Oh well, everybody could be helped if they had like the right."
He just, he definitely thinks a lot differently. He's more like on his own, like we said, more land activist and like. I kind of visualized it more like hippie and then like law enforcement.
Yeah.
And so obviously that had to be like a weird upbringing because two completely different like households.
Yeah.
And I feel like as time went on though, he went like a little bit crazy. He seemed to become like a hoarder and like obsessed with stuff like that, and kind of just
was a little bit more reclusive. I think the more reclusive he was throughout his life, the more like agitated he got with things, and it was just we can get more into him a little bit later because like the way this book was laid out, it has a lot of like now and then and different like flashbacks between everything, and I think that really helps you understand the main character for sure and her sister.
Yeah. So they obviously care a lot about nature, things like that, obviously. And he became a biologist, and just seeing like being raised from both sides of that and then also having her condition, I feel like made her less trusting of people because like her mom always being like dangers out there and then like with the condition and then being like you have to be careful because people can abuse that, all the things. And so she was kind of like, I don't know, I feel like her profession made sense to me, but she'd be like in this kind of remote area, just like with the wolves.
Yeah. Protecting herself.
Yeah. But so we kind of come back into town where she's running this project, and she ends up kind of becoming friends with, I guess at first, Duncan, who is
He's a sheriff, right?
the local sheriff. Duncan McTavish, which I also thought was hilarious because we just read that other book where their last name
The
was
Tavishes?
Yeah. And I was like, wow.
Was that the heiress?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one was pretty interesting. That one was good.
Yeah.
I think about that one randomly.
And so that was kind of funny. I was like, what? So anyway, she kind of starts like building this friendship with him, and she's trying to explain to him like why this is important, and like we need to get these people on our side, all this stuff. And she has kind of a really bad few encounters with one of the town's people, Stewart.
See the married guy?
Yeah.
No. He was a D-bag.
Yeah. So he like had a local farm.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like crazy, not crazy. He was very like vocal and aggressive about how
he wanted to make his point across very sternly.
But then not only like to that, but there was a situation with like, I don't remember what happened with the horse. Something happened to the horse, and then he was gonna like have the horse put down.
The horse ran off, and it got hurt. Fell into like some wire or something in the road.
Yeah.
It like skidded. I think it was on her way to. She found this horse and like returned it to him. Right, that one. I heard it's leg.
Yeah, it got hurt somehow, and then he was gonna like have it put down.
She's like, it can be rehabilitated. It's not that serious.
Yeah, because they had like the vet come out, and that's like what they said. But he was like, nah, like
I'm not gonna waste time on it. And then she's like, well, I'll buy it from you. And so she ended up taking the horse to her land with her sister, and now she was going to pay him, I think it was like $2,000 or something. So now she was in debt to him, taking the horse.
Yeah, it was a lot. I remember because he was trying to sell it for like what he would get for like a perfectly healthy horse, and then she was like, "You were literally gonna," and he was like, "Well, like." You won it, basically. So
he was an ass.
Yeah. So that happened. And he was really aggressive about like that and the owing the money and then the wolves. And then the more he started like being around them, she kind of started noticing some weird things about his wife, Lainey, who she had a pretty good inclination that Stuart was abusing her. And so she starts getting like really wound up about that. And it's like, somebody needs to do something. And so she's kind of stepping in where
NT is getting into that.
Yeah.
Her sister is more kind of, I think her sister's agoraphobic.
So I was going to say that too, is in the beginning, her sister like wasn't even talking or anything. And that was something else that they talked about from whenever they were younger, because they were like twins. They had like made up sign language.
Which I thought was kind of cute. Because it wasn't like traditional sign language or whatever. They like made it's a little bit of that, and then also like some of their own.
Yeah, well, I think they made up the first one, and then like actually learned sign language, but then they kind of kept a mix of like both ASL and.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they did sign ASL. I don't know. They were in the States, but now they're, I don't know.
Yeah.
Some sort of sign language, and
then they have their own.
And then like partially like made up words. But in the beginning, she's like not talking at all, but we don't really like know that much about her other than like the flashbacks from the childhood whenever they would talk about, or when she would talk about them signing to each other or like
experiences with one or the parents of the other.
But so in the beginning, there wasn't a lot to do with her. So NT is getting involved. She's kind of, while with the best intentions, she's kind of putting her nose in some places that maybe it doesn't belong. And an already aggravated like townsperson because of the whole situation that's going on, and then now she's like basically like, I know you're abusing your wife. She's
like,
I'm
bringing the wolves to piss you off, and I know you're a bad guy. Doing this.
She's kind of just really like
singled him out,
kicking up the dust.
Yeah,
for sure. She is on a warpath with that guy. So as that's kind of happening, and she's getting closer with Duncan, and then they're kind of finding out that. So everybody in this town, because it's like a small town, they all kind of grew up together, things like that, and so she's trying to get information from Duncan, and then trying to be like, do something.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
Duncan the sheriff, right?
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, well, there's no evidence. At first, remember, he's like, well, what you feel and what you see are two like that thing.
Yeah, he's like, there's nothing I can really do about it. And then she's like, but you know what's happening, like all the things. And there's one night where they're at like the local pub or something, and Auntie and Stuart get into like kind of about it. Like I don't think she actually said like you're abusing your wife, but essentially she and was basically like you're a piece of shit, and she was like squaring up with him,
antagonizing him,
and so they like drag him out of the bar before it gets wild, and so Duncan and I think some of the other like townspeople are out there talking to Stuart, and he eventually comes back. Duncan comes back, but he was gone for like a while. And then that was the first night she went back with him, I think.
With who?
There might have been a night before that.
Is this the first? Yeah.
They either had like started getting it like more intimate. Either right before that or this was like the first night. It might have been like 1 or 2 times before that. And then this night she like went back to his place, but after he was like gone for a while.
This is the initial time.
Yeah, and then they end up getting into some kind of like argument, and so she leaves like basically in the middle of the night. I think it's like 3 a.m. or something like that. And she ends up coming across Stuart's body.
Yeah. And he was like torn up, essentially.
Yeah. Basically, from what it sounded like, looked like a wolf attack.
Yeah.
And so then she starts panicking.
Mauled.
And she's like, if they find him, they're gonna like
attack the wolves. They're gonna like have this whole thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, things are just starting to be okay, and it's not gonna be ruined by this guy.
Yeah.
He's like, he has more enemies than just the wolves. And she's like, kind of like, it could be the wolves, but she's pretty sure it's not because of the way some things are on there, like on him. I think his like throat was cut. I don't remember exactly. Like, she thinks that someone had killed him, and then the wolves got to him after.
Oh, I thought that she thought that somebody killed him, but like intentionally made it look like it was the wolves to try to like set them up.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. I remember it being like she was pretty adamant that it wasn't. The wolves.
She was like, she's like, they would do this.
Yeah, he has enough enemies, and it wasn't the wolf.
Yeah,
they're making it look like that as an excuse.
Yeah, so she's like, I gotta hide the body, basically, even though she's not the one who killed him.
Yeah, and I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's like freezing cold. Isn't it cold at this time? There's like snow or something?
Yeah.
So imagine 3 a.m. you come across this horrific scene, and then you're like, I need to bury it. And then and it's cold, it's frozen. Digging up frozen dirt. That's commitment.
Yeah, so, and I think that also had all happened. So the fight at like the pub and whatever, she knew that he like beat up Lainey like really bad. I'm trying to like remember what happened exactly, but there was some scenario, and she like knew. I think she like had a black eye, or maybe she saw something. I don't remember.
I don't remember exactly, but I remember her seeing her in town.
It was something,
Yeah.
like, it had escalated, and so that's what caused NT to, like, really antagonize him.
Yeah.
And then they got into the fight or whatever. So,
This happened the day before, so this was that evening.
yeah, so then that evening, she's leaving Duncan's house, like, middle of the night, finds it, she's like, have to bury it, whatever. Next morning, everybody starts getting questioned. As to, like,
Where did he go?
where did he go? Because at this point,
it's
he's missing. Yeah. And there's, like, a bunch of theories, but I think several people obviously initially was like, oh, it was Lainey because she finally, like,
got him back.
yeah.
But she was the one that, I thought she was the one that initially put in the missing thing. Right?
Well, yeah, she was, like, freaking out, but then people were like, well, it's probably, like, her, whatever.
Yeah.
But then I think Duncan thought it was because of the whole blow up, and then Inti thought it was Duncan because he was, like, gone whenever he, like, went outside to talk to him at the pub. He was gone for, like, a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then she didn't know
what ended up happening.
Well, yeah, like, where he went, because she tried to start, like, investigating it on her own. And people were like, oh, the last time we saw him, he's, like, arguing with Duncan in the parking lot, and then Duncan supposedly took him to jail, but then he never made it to the, like, sheriff's office. Yeah.
Yeah. Holding cell.
So, everybody's trying to figure out
what's going on,
who did it, where he is, and all the things.
Also, whenever she woke up, he wasn't there, right? He wasn't there. Duncan?
I thought she wasn't there, and that's why he thought that it was her. Because she left, like, in the middle. And then he, like, went over to her house in the morning.
Why did she leave? She was, like, pissed off at him about something.
Yeah, they got into some sort of argument, I think. But
I think it was because of the guy.
Yeah.
Because of him, but she left in the middle of the night. Anyway.
Regardless, they both had, like, a big chunk of time that the other one didn't know where they were at.
Yeah. So then everyone gets questioned, like you were saying, and then Duncan has a partner that also helps with the investigation. Yeah, I don't remember her name either, but she also did some of the interrogations, and I think she questioned her, and then she's like, well, you never asked me about to verify Duncan's story. And she's like, oh, I didn't think I had to. Like, I believed you. I believe him, I believed you. She's like, you need to verify. Because she thinks it was, you know,
Duncan. Yeah. Because through, like, as this is, like, kind of going on, she is learning more about, like, the history. And like I said, they all kind of grew up together. Mm-hmm. And so we start having flashbacks of, like, T and Aggie as they're, like, a little bit older. So they, like, moved out. They're, like, at college age.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're starting to get these flashbacks. And then, like, right around that time, we start finding out more information of, like, Duncan and, like, all the locals as they were around the same age. And come to find out, Duncan and Lainey were, like, high school sweethearts. And so, and, like, obviously everybody in town knew that Stuart, like, beat her and all the things. And so that was also what helped fuel being, like, and then, so then that's whenever we start getting into more of the backstory as to why both of them feel so much conviction, like, regarding this, which is, one, we find out that Duncan killed his dad,
was abusive, and Duncan was, what, between 14 to 16 years old.
Yeah.
And the father was abusive and was beating on the wife, and then Duncan had enough and ended up killing his father. And so he has a special tie to domestic violence, of course. And they thought it was him or there's some suspicions of it being him because of that past and like bringing up that past trauma. And then in addition to that, he was also a love interest with Laney. So like she would have. I think that at some point they found out that she called him in the middle of the night, and he was going to go out and try and find him or something, and then he just never went back home.
Yeah, and so that was like another thing. Like, why is she calling you? Like all the things.
Yeah, she could have called you because she was abused, and then you could have gotten upset, and then it's not, or it is biased because he is a sheriff.
Yeah.
So.
And then, so around that time, then, like I said, we're getting the flashbacks of NT and Aggie, like college time.
Yes.
And Aggie starts dating this guy.
I can't remember his name, but is it Gus?
Yes, yeah.
He was
he was definitely interesting. So we first meet him because NT, like, goes out and basically has a one-night stand with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes home to her sister and everything, blah, blah, blah. And then Gus walks in and is like, oh, you forgot something.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out, like, Gus is dating
Aggie.
Yeah, and so he thought, or
Yeah.
he says he thought that NT was Aggie, and they were just like...
They're playing their role-playing game.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my,
Yeah, and then realizes that, like, he just hooked up with his girlfriend's sister.
Uh-huh.
So then, like, that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
But then as we kind of get to know them more, it seems more like Gus is, like, into that and, like, wants to be with, like, both of them.
Yeah.
And NT was, as soon as she, like, found out, she was like, okay, yeah,
I'm done.
No,
yeah.
Like, that's... And then Aggie starts, like, acting more chaotic. I feel like she starts, I don't know, it kind of seemed like she was more into, like, partying and stuff like that than NT was, and kind of getting herself into, like, not great situations.
Yeah.
And I think some of that was, like, being with Gus.
Yeah. Gus was very much, I would say, fueling that, because he was the party frat guy. Let's hang out and drink and joke around and be misogynistic. And she was just kind of going along with it because that was her boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
And all the things. And then I feel like NT was more focused with schoolwork because she was becoming a biologist, and she had, like, a set plan. I felt that she was there for an end goal, and Aggie was there for,
I think it was languages. I'm pretty sure, because they were talking about, like, she could speak a bunch of different languages and stuff, and that was whenever she learned, like, a legitimate language and whatever. And,
so I think NT was more focused, and she was, of course, more into the college experiences.
Yeah. But then it was, like, funny because they both, like, their inner monologue talked about, like, them wanting to be more like the other, or, like, NT talked about, like, whenever they would pretend to be each other, and she would like acting like her because she was never, like, free like that, just did what she wanted, and all the things. But things kind of progressed with Gus and got
pretty... I believe NT, Gus, and Aggie were all living together, right?
Yeah, I think at the time.
So NT gets home, and she's like, where's Agnes? And then it's just like, I don't know, have a drink. She's like, I don't want to. And then he kind of, like, forces her to have a drink. And then Agnes gets home and then sees NT, like, underneath Gus's arm, and she's like, hey, let me talk to you. And he's like, no, let's, have a drink, we're having a party. And there's, like, he has, like, his guy friends over. And then Agnes kind of gets Gus distracted NT can like make her exit and leave because she doesn't want to be a part of it. So basically like taking her place. So NT goes to her room, and then sometime later she hears like them stumbling upstairs, like multiple people. And so she opens the door and she sees Agnes being held up by Gus and then some other frat guy, and then going into NT's room. And she's like, I don't know. She like they like lock the door and go in there, and she's like, no, like that's not right. Like she's barely has her eyes open, all things. So she knows what's gonna happen. She's like freaking out. She goes downstairs and tries to get the other guys that are down there to like call the cops.
I thought that she had left, and then she was like,
She couldn't get. She
she
couldn't
was
get the
like
guys
up, and then she told them they didn't know where she was or whatever, and then so she went to go find her, and then Gus went with her, and so they went to go get her, and then that was whenever he like went in and he like punched that dude in the face.
That's a separate time.
Okay,
But yeah, because there's a lot of things that.
Yeah.
Because I remember her opening up her door and seeing the two guys getting, and then she went downstairs to try and get the other guys to call the cops. So they're like, no, like they're into it. They're just having fun. Like we don't need to call the cops. And it's like you're being dramatic. She's like,
Yeah.
I'm not. So she's like banging on the door, and then they finally like bring her in, and then so they have both twins, and then the both guys are there. And then by the time they wake up, things happen. And then when they become more conscious, then she calls the police because Agnes, is very hurt and has to go to the hospital. And then at this point, they ended up having to do surgery, and then they had to do like a total hysterectomy.
Yeah, it was really bad. But then somehow she ends up like forgiving Gus, I guess, because then they end up getting married and they all like leave. They move somewhere.
Yeah,
just the three of them.
That was the part. That one was the second one. I think you're thinking of the first one where she
came home and they were all like partying or something. Ivy wasn't there, and she was basically like, "Where is she?" And he was like, "I don't fucking know, like whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, "I'm gonna go find her."
Mm-hmm.
And then she realizes she was like at some guy's house who was like fine, who was totally he wasn't doing anything, but she like got too drunk basically at like a party or something.
Yeah, she went to go pick her up.
And so she went to that guy's place because it was like a friend of hers from class or something.
Yeah.
And so since she was gonna go pick her up there, then Gus like went with her, and as soon as the dude like opened the door, Gus like punched him in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And then they like go in, and Aggie's like all messed up, pass out, which again he wasn't like doing anything, but then they got into a fight and he like beat her and stuff like that. And so that's where a lot of Inti's trauma comes from regarding like Stuart and Lainey and her being so triggered by like what she's obviously seeing, and everybody's just pretending like it's not happening. But yeah, so then the situation you explained happened, and then again I don't remember. Maybe he was just like I'm so sorry, like it'll never happen, whatever. Yeah. And then they end up like kind of eloping, and then they all move somewhere. It was like Inti's first like a different project that she was on, like after they had graduated or whatever, and she got like some sort of internship or job or something, and so then they all moved there.
Yeah.
But it keeps like going back and forth. It's like alluding to something happened to Gus because Gus is not around now, that Scotland and stuff. But we just keep getting more pieces of like
what's happening,
that he got progressively more abusive as it happens. And so she's triggered by this. So then we're back to, I guess, Scotland. They're trying to figure out about Stuart and whatever. I feel like I'm missing some parts in here, but
there's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah. And throughout this, there was a lot of stuff going on with like the wolves because like there was like one of the farmers like kind of purposely killed one of them, but then claimed
it was because of them.
they thought it was a dog or whatever, and like all the things, and so she's like pissed because he was like an alpha or something of one of the packs.
Yeah, he was one of the pack leaders, and then like the mate was like the alpha of the females,
And she was all
and she kept howling, like trying to get her mate to find her, and it's been going. She's like howling for weeks, and the people are getting upset. Like they're getting more and more restless with them.
yeah.
Because they're like, "Why is she howling?" She's like, "She's in mourning."
Yeah. So there's like stuff going on with them. She's trying to like keep this going, but they're like dying off. And then she's got all this conflict going on with the townspeople. And then I guess so through all this, Duncan and Inti are like have this weird like they want to be in a relationship with each other, but neither one of them like trust each other.
Because they both think that the other killed Stuart.
Yeah,
but they don't tell each other this.
Yeah, because they're both got like trauma.
Yeah.
And so, but
communication error.
Yeah. But then they're like, they don't want to be in a relationship, so then they keep just like hooking up, even though they both like want to be with each other, but they don't say it.
And they're both very adamant of not having kids. He has trauma about having kids, he's his father, and isn't interested in them, and then she doesn't want to have kids because it's her and her sister, like it's them together, you know. And then I also think it's because her sister can't have kids. So
Yeah,
she doesn't want
I think
to
she
have
said that.
Yeah,
like she doesn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And but then she finds out
after times of looking up
that she's pregnant,
and she can't make up her mind on what to do. So
she like doesn't tell him or anything, and I feel like at first she was immediately like wanting to have an abortion, but then she like was kind of just ignoring it. Like acting like she wasn't even basically and was going on with all these things and trying to like do her own investigation to where Stuart went so that way she could prove that like it wasn't her or the wolves and all this stuff. She kept accusing all these people. But then the more she found out about Duncan, then she ended up liking him more, and so then I feel like that's what created like even more conflict.
Yeah.
But it was also crazy too because he was very clear that like he didn't want kids.
She also didn't want to tell him that because she was going to be. She was either ignoring and fully expecting him not to be a part of it, and just it would. I think she was thinking that it's going to be her sister, and the baby, like him not having.
Well, and I think during their conversation too, I might be wrong about this, but I think he even said something about like he wanted to be like really clear about it because like other women were like convinced that he dated that like one day he would change his mind or whatever, and he was like, I'm not going to, like whatever. Yeah. And so she was like,
okay, well you made it
very clear.
Extremely clear.
And so by me like ignoring it would be like, well, you'll change your mind, whatever. So yeah, I guess the main thing like that happens then is we also find out that the girl who's like
the
alpha leader, she is also pregnant, and they know she's like pregnant, and so they're like worried about what she's like gonna do because of like her mate being gone and all this stuff. And then the people who were like working on this project with her like went into her den, and so and she was like freaking out because she was like she's not gonna go in there now because she's gonna be freaked out that there's, but she does, thankfully, I guess.
Which I thought was so cute. She's like, oh yes, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they ended up like tranquilizing the mom so they can take the pups and check them out.
I thought that,
or they went to go check. I remember them tranking the mama wolf.
They did, but
for something.
She was like going to, and then she was like, "Oh dang, I don't need to," because she was like gonna have them, but then it was like too late. She had already like done it. And so then she was like, we'll have to make sure these pups are like okay. So she was like in the den, like trying to deal with that. I don't remember what happened, like how she ended up alone.
There was alone with the pups.
Yeah, and like how everything,
because there is, while they're also exploring the female wolf and like her stuff and their stuff, they also are noticing one of the wolves is not really being a part of the pack, and he's kind of like a lone wolf, and he's like not as afraid of humans, and it's causing problems with the other farmers and things. So they're keeping an eye on this wolf specifically. And then she's kind of like, Inti's kind of like, well, let's just kind of see how it plays out, because, you know, she's kind of being, doesn't want to really react, but is also having, like, also has a pulse on, like, what's going, like, they're very into tracking this wolf, making sure it's not going to cause any issues. So after they check out these wolf pups, she ends up going home that evening to be with Agnes and then check on the horse, because I think she still has this horse, right? And which I also just remembered we forgot to talk about Stuart's semi-pass, because apparently he did a lot of drinking and a lot of gambling, and he owes a lot of people money, and so they're kind of thinking one of the other things was that someone went after him so they can like pay, so he can pay up. And then another thing was Stuart was harassing Inti not only for involving herself into his personal business, but also because she owed him money. And so he was kind of like, I'm going to come out here every day until you pay me, because whatever. Yeah. Because I think
we kind of touched on it, but yeah, he was like, just like sitting out there, like watching her, and
what a creep.
And it was freaking out Aggie because of like her past and stuff. And then she like obviously didn't know this dude.
Yeah.
And then also, yeah, because we kind of said like he had a lot of enemies, so I guess we just implied. But he did not have a ton of friends, and so while like Duncan and NT thought that like each other was the one who killed them, and then there was people who thought Lainey did it or whatever, they were definitely like, well, he had people who
he had a
lot of enemies, and so like it's kind of not that surprising that like he ended up in this situation.
Yeah. So back to where we are. She goes and she goes home to like check on Agnes, and then the horse that she ended up buying. I don't even know if she paid the rest of the money too late, but I don't remember. And check on that horse because the leg is still mending. It's like doing better. She's checking on her, whatever. And then something happens. I believe the female detective goes to the house and she's like, hey, I don't think I ever asked you this, but she goes, I did ask, what's his name? Duncan, if you were there all night, and he said that you were, but I never asked you if he was there all night. And then she has like this inner monologue of like, well, I want to say yes because I don't want the wolf to be blamed. And then she also is thinking like at this time, she's like, okay, I really believe he didn't do it. So we need to find out who really did it. So I'm going to say, yes, he was there the whole time, even though he wasn't. And so the detective's like, okay, thank you. I have other things to do. I'll talk to you later, whatever. And so with this epiphany, she actually believes him. So she's going to go and talk to him. So she tells Agnes, hey, I'll be back tomorrow or later, or whatever. And she takes the horse with the healed leg and goes to Duncan's. And then when she gets to Duncan's, she's like, this is like towards the very end. She knocks on Duncan's home. He's not answering. She like lets herself in. She's like, oh, this is weird. His truck's there. The dog isn't here. Maybe he went out and like walked the dog. So she is kind of like walking around, kind of waiting, and then she hears like something going on outside, and so she's like, I think she hears the dog like whimpering or something. And so she goes out there and she finds in the dark the dog first, and the dog is gutted, and she sees it. She feels, her, can't remember her thing, but she feels the mirror thing.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh my gosh, we're, all these things. And then she looks around some more, and then she finds Duncan. And Duncan is obviously mauled by a wolf. And I think he had a bite or like a bunch of scratches across his neck. So he's like losing blood there. I also think he has some things going on with his gut. She is extremely pregnant at this point. She's like 8 months. And he's like looking at her. She's like packing the wound with like fresh snow. He's like looking over his dog. And this, like, I'm not even gonna lie, I was crying a little bit.
He was like, my dog.
He's like looking at her and then like making a point to look at the dog. And I think because he like loves the dog.
Yeah.
And she's like, yes, he's a good dog. I'm not gonna leave him. Like, she knew what he was talking about, and with her being like a wildlife person and all the things, she's like, I'm not gonna leave him. I'm gonna take care of him. He's gonna be okay. Like, let's focus on you. And there's like no service because it's a remote area. So she decides to drag him to his truck. And I don't know how she does this, I guess like with extreme determination. She describes it of like, well, he can't stand up, so I have to like drag him. So she like holds him between his like armpits, shoulders, and like is dragging, I'm assuming extremely slowly because again she's 8 months pregnant.
Yeah.
And is like dragging him, and I'm sure it's very painful because she also sees this.
Yeah.
And somehow miraculously lifts him into the truck, I think in the back bed part. And then he's like staring at her and like looking out once he's in the truck, and she goes, yes, I'm not gonna forget the dog. So she goes and picks up the dog and puts him on like I just like was a little bit crying here because I was like, oh my god, this dog died. I hate it. I know. I hate it. So she like gets him to the emergency room, and I think the dog ends up dying.
Yeah.
She's like, this fucking sucks ass. So she gets him to the local hospital, and he goes into surgery. She also gets checked out because she has like a ton of blood from dragging him and picking up the dog, and she's just kind of like, I don't even know, like disassociating. She's just like, just kind of going with it. Like, she couldn't believe she was able to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the doctor's also asking her a bunch of questions, like, you're pregnant, like, when was the last appointment, like, how are you feeling? And she's like, since I've been pregnant, I've never gone to the hospital, and then never had an appointment. And the doctor's like, that's bad. Let's do some tests. So apparently she's okay, and then as okay as she can be. And then she takes it upon herself. She's like realizing that he was attacked by a wolf. Like, there's no other ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
And then she realizes, oh my gosh, my determination of protecting the wolves and trying to find out who the actual killer is, it's got to be that lone wolf. And what if no one actually killed Stuart? What if it was actually a wolf and I just was not willing to accept that because she was so determined in protecting the wolves? So she finally admits to herself that it is that wolf and she needs to kill the wolf immediately. So she gets back in the truck, goes back to Duncan's, gets her horse that she rode over there with, and she goes out in the wilderness with, I believe, the gun that was in Duncan's truck, and goes hunting for this wolf. And she talks about how she's never been able to kill anything. It's always been Agnes or her father whenever they are growing up because of this condition she has, the mirroring something.
Yeah.
So she's like nervous that she knows this needs to be done, but she doesn't know how it will be because she's never done it.
Even though I feel like there was a lot alluding up to this that her or Aggie killed Gus.
Mm-hmm.
Like wherever they were living before this. Like, that's kind of what it was like.
Alluding to.
Like, also something we skipped over randomly, just want to say, is that at one point, her and Lainey kind of have a little bit of a blow up, and Lainey ends up telling her that she saw her dragging Stuart's body.
Oh.
But she was like, but I didn't say anything because, like, I owe you.
Mm.
But, like,
you're
the one that killed him.
Oh, yeah, because she wanted to give him a proper burial.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl.
So, yeah, that's why she was, like, out looking for it. Anyway, that was just kind of, like, random. So, anyway, then she's out, and she's like, I don't know if I can do this. She's, like, talking about one of her other projects where she, like, couldn't shoot the wolf. Yeah. And somebody else had to do it. Anyway, she's out in the wilderness, finds the wolf, has it in her crosshairs, and then what should she do? She kills the wolf. I want to say this pushes her into labor. That was the part that I was like trying to get to, because I was like, how did she get out there? I don't remember how she ended up by herself out there. Yeah, so she goes into labor. Yes. In the middle of the woods. Yeah. With her horse. No cell reception in the middle of the night. So things are going well. And so she miraculously has her baby by herself. I don't remember what happens. She's like trying, so she has the baby, and then she's like trying to get back, but she's like freezing and like all the things, and then I think she ended up like passing out. Yeah. Because she was just like, I'm trying to keep us both alive. And then she ends up passing out, and then that's whenever I think that other farmer guy, whatever his name was, Red McCrae, I think they ended up finding her. I don't know I can't remember if it was because of Aggie. Somehow they found out. Sister. Yeah, she like told the other people that she was like working with, and so then them and then the farmers like went out looking for her, and they were like, she was like so shocked by it because she was like basically like, I thought you like hated me. And they were like, well, you don't like deserve to die. Like we're not like monsters basically. So just because we disagree with you doesn't mean you're going to die. So what a concept. Yeah, so they end up like saving her, and the baby is like, they're like critical, but then they end up going to the hospital and they end up being okay. So with that, so they're like doing that, and then Duncan's basically like, what, we have baby, you never told me. And like, he also cannot speak, I'm pretty sure, because they ended up waking up separately, but then meeting each other in the hospital. And because he had his neck slashed out, I think he's like writing this on like a whiteboard or like on phone or something. And he's like, the doctors think that I can never speak again. And he's like, you're saying, I'm totally surprised about this, but she never told him about. And then what I thought was really beautiful, well-rounded moment was she's like, you know, we can speak without saying anything. We can teach you the ways of like speaking essentially. And I think that's, so they end up wanting to like keep the baby. Obviously now she's had the baby. And so he's like, well, I actually do want to like be a part of your life and like all the things. And so they're like kind of moving on. I don't remember how much later it is, but then they're like all living together, and like the wolves are doing good. The mama and like the babies are like growing up, and the little runt is like now taking over, and they're like doing good, and now the farmers are like not as freaked out, and so like it's kind of like restored type of deal. And so during that time, they're like all back together, and then NT and Aggie end up having a conversation where she basically ends up telling her, because it seems like Aggie thinks that NT killed Gus, but then NT tells her like, I wasn't able to do it, like I'm so sorry, like I couldn't kill him, and she's like basically like, it's fine, we got away from him, whatever. Yeah. But then Aggie reveals that she was actually the one that killed Stuart. because
Aggie reveals that she goes to her.
yeah,
Crazy.
she was like having PTSD from like she kept thinking Gus was like coming back, and so when Stuart was like watching outside the house, being like, "Give me more money," and Aggie didn't know like who he was or whatever, so she ended up killing him, and so she ends up telling her that, and yeah, how would I miss that? I don't know. So they're like doing that, and they're trying to like move on with their life, like whatever renewal. And like it kind of mirrors like what's happening with the wolves and like everything, like nature and whatever. But then like I guess something else that we did not talk about was they lost their dad, like, and so the dad basically kind of like we were talking about went a little bit crazy, and so then he just kind of like
Started getting kind of abusive.
yeah, and like the second he did it,
Agnes.
yeah, and like then like once he started doing it, he was basically like no, and so then he like went off in the woods by himself, and they don't know for certain, but they're pretty sure like he went off in the woods to like go die. And so at the end,
oh, I forgot about that because she also mentioned like seeing her father in the woods.
Yeah,
whenever she was having the baby, he was like, "You can get through it." Like you're strong. Like he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
encouraging her to like save herself.
Yeah. And so then at the very end, NT is like deciding to stay in Scotland with Duncan, and they're gonna like move on, and like Aggie's there too. And then like after Aggie admits that she's the one that killed Stuart, and like she's like done with all the craziness, she ends up going off into the wilderness, and it's kind of left unknown. Did she go off to die, or just go like finally live on their own, like live on her own? Because they talked about that a lot. But they were like never separated and all this stuff. But now that all this is over, so did she like go off to finally be alone, or did she like go off and die? And that is
I remember that part.
how it ends.
Yeah, it was. I really liked it. I like it more now that I missed that.
Now that I saw this crazy thing happen,
There was a big reveal in this.
So yeah, that was the book. It was pretty good. A lot going on, a lot of back and forth, like we were saying. It was definitely interesting because it was like multiple storylines.
Yeah, it went from. It was multiple storylines, and then also like these pivotal moments of like their childhood, like their childhood with, the mom, and then the childhood with the dad, and then the childhood or colleges with what's his name, Gus. So I like that it kind of you grew up with them and like these major points in their lives, and then also kind of like came together with what's going on now. I think that was really well done. But yeah, it was
kind of interesting. Like obviously, it was intentional, like mirroring the nature of like the wolves and then like what was happening and like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like yeah. So yeah.
Would
you recommend this book to others?
I would. I would absolutely recommend this book to others. I like it. And that was like a good kind of like murder mystery, but also like contemporary.
Yeah.
Kind of vibe. I think it was a contemporary with a murder mystery in it.
Yeah.
So
I would also recommend it. I think like if somebody likes this kind of genre, I feel like if somebody was like more like nature stuff like this, that would this is something I would definitely recommend. Writing style.
I thought the writing style was pretty good. I liked how the inner monologue sometimes could be done badly. I think she did pretty good.
Yeah.
With that, with a lot of like the thoughts going on. I thought that the plot came together out really well. I think it was like really well. The writing style and how it flowed out. I liked it.
Yeah, I think the balance was good for sure. Of like all the crazy stuff that was happening, and then like the in between.
Yeah,
wasn't like a lot of like lull, and then
there was always something going on, like something with the wolves, and then something with this murder mystery.
Yeah,
and then something with like the drama between the people.
Yeah,
Yep.
Engagement. Yeah.
My answer from the previous.
No, same again. I hate sometimes whenever like everything happens at like the last,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so I feel like it was good. Like we found out stuff. Like even though there was a big like climactic moment or moments like at the end, like where it all kind of came out, it was still like there were those moments in between too. So
Yeah, absolutely.
overall rating,
I was like debating this. I'm like either I'm between a 4, 4.5. I'm probably like 4.25. I think it's a little bit better than a 4, but not quite 4.5.
okay,
So somewhere between there. Solid 4.
okay. I think I'm a little bit below you because I think I'm more between like a 3.5
Mm.
4 maybe, but I feel like I'm more in 3.5. I don't know. I don't get as invested with the animals and stuff. Like I liked it, and the little
Last
baby
episode.
So, but I still think it was really good.
Yeah.
It was a good book, and I think like it's not something I would normally pick up, so I'm glad for that. So, yeah, I'd say like a 3
Yeah.
for me.
It was good. Yeah. Solid book.
Yep.
Recommend. So next week. So next week we have theme week, and we're gonna do something a little bit different because it is our Christmas week. So our theme is Because I Know You Christmas Book Swap. How that is gonna work is I'm gonna pick a book for Gabby, and then she is gonna pick a book for me, and then we are going to read it and then come back and see how that goes. So we got ourselves each other gifts. So let's pull this out. Merry early Christmas. Together. Okay. Nervous. I like that we both got each other hardcovers. Quality.
I
So
love Taylor Jenkins Reid, so hooray for that. I not heard of this book, so not exciting.
we'll see.
But I got Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid.
I'm excited for you to read that. I got Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey.
Who also wrote
The book participant.
which was a complete accident because we chose that out of TBR, so for that to happen
What a coincidence.
at the same time is crazy.
Well, I did give it like
But hopefully, I'm correct.
this is exciting. Well, stay tuned next time. We'll talk about why we chose these books for each other, and then we'll talk about them. Get a copy, read them. 2 weeks, 1 week. 2 books in 1 week.
Nailed it. Season 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 books, 1 week.